My first million too. How did I start enjoying my money? My name is Camille, and most of you likely already know me from the last episode we shared together. I'm sure you're curious about what happened next. State prison. After 4 years of imprisonment, I left the gates of the prison and began to adjust to my regained freedom. Thanks to my solid financial security and stability, I haven't had to work yet. I rented a cozy small house, bought some essential furniture, a flat-screen TV, and a new computer. I wrote my new motto on my Facebook profile, starting over. I was used to the guards locking up instead of me, so I often forgot my keys at home when leaving, which soon came back to haunt me. Once, when I returned home, I found out that I had been robbed. They took practically everything except the furniture. I immediately called the police. The dispatcher urgently wanted to know if the thieves were still inside the building. When I assured her that I wouldn't, she promised to send someone to me soon. They arrived about 5 hours later. They meticulously wrote everything down and secured the evidence, but they informed me immediately that I likely wouldn't see any of my belongings again. They said if I wanted, I could check out the pawn shops myself or look online, because they didn't have time for any of that. They kindly advised me not to forget to securely lock up the place next time before leaving. Well, it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, as I ended up buying everything new and even picked up a few items I didn't actually need at all, just because I truly liked them and enjoyed their company. I need to adjust to the reality that I am now a millionaire and have the ability to purchase whatever I desire. I was just watching my favorite show on TV when someone suddenly rang the doorbell. At the door stood a funny guy dressed entirely in bright red with a cameraman beside him. He greeted me warmly and politely mentioned that Postman Andra from the beloved show would soon be looking for me. He wanted to know if I was Mr. Camel. I paused for a moment, and the postman inquired if I was familiar with the show. Of course, I completely understood what it was truly about. An individual you haven't encountered in a considerable amount of time, or someone you prefer not to see due to their past annoyances, is inviting you to attend this show. A nice tearjerker. Don't watch it. The postman kept talking animatedly, saying he had a special invitation for me. He waved a large envelope in his hand. He mentioned that he would give it to me once I correctly answered a specific security question. The question posed was whether I had indeed been convicted 4 years ago to a substantial 6-year prison sentence and had recently been released on parole. I took a deep breath and seriously wondered if I should just angrily slam the door shut. I simply wanted to completely erase my past and start anew. What a disgrace. And it will be on TV. I quietly muttered a soft yes, and finally received the envelope. I wanted to say goodbye quickly, and then swiftly close the door, but the persistent postman kept pressing on. He was asking if I had any idea who invited me. Could it possibly be an old love from years ago, a former classmate, or perhaps a friend from prison? I had no clue. He pressured me to promise that I would come to the TV show. I made several excuses, but ultimately I promised him just to be rid of him. I settled down comfortably on the couch and wondered who could have possibly invited me here. I thought maybe it was my father. I haven't seen him since I was just 4 years old when he divorced my mom. He never came to see me in person or even took the time to write. He paid child support sporadically. I likely wouldn't recognize him after all these years. Maybe he regrets it now. Perhaps he's dying and wants to apologize to me, I thought. And who else could possibly be the culprit? A childhood friend? No. In truth, I have never really had any close friends. The kids teased and mocked me because I didn't have a dad. Classmates? They didn't either. I was the only student in the entire class who didn't have a phone of my own. They didn't talk to me. I was simply viewed as a total loser to them. Would any of my former romantic partners want to see me again? I seriously doubted it. Most of those relationships remained purely platonic. Perhaps it was an old cellmate who extended the invitation to me, but I certainly did not yearn for that kind of gathering. Driven by overwhelming curiosity, I finally decided to go on that TV show. The show's enthusiastic host, Ms. Esther, first interviewed me backstage and carefully went through the detailed technical script with me. Then the filming began. The host warmly welcomed me with a friendly smile in front of the bright cameras and gracefully sat down on a large plush sofa, inviting me to join them for an engaging conversation. The audience stared and the lighting was uncomfortably bright in my eyes. I was extremely nervous and mentally called myself an idiot. Miss Esther inquired with her usual curiosity about whether I was aware of who had extended the invitation to me. I responded by saying that I truly had no idea. Additionally, I had previously informed her of this backstage before the filming began, but she wished to hear it once more on camera. She persistently kept probing me, asking if I knew anyone from my past whom I hadn't seen in a long time who might want to meet me. I assured her sincerely that I truly didn't know at all. The enigmatic host, with an air of intrigue, mentioned that she was aware I had authored a rather successful book detailing my life experiences some time ago, and she wondered if perhaps a loyal reader of mine could have invited me to join. I guessed that I wouldn't mind that situation at all, really. To my dismay, however, she unexpectedly brought up my past time in prison. She gave me a sympathetic look and said it must have been a very difficult time for me. I almost didn't say it, but it suddenly occurred to me that perhaps the grieving relatives of the woman I accidentally ran over might have extended an invitation to me. Maybe they wanted to tell me that they had forgiven me. Miss Esther's voice broke through my deep thoughts, suggesting that maybe a former cellmate had indeed invited me to the studio for a visit or collaboration. Feeling exhausted from all the uncertainty, I decided to directly ask her to reveal exactly who had invited me. She firmly stated that she wouldn't reveal any details, but urged me to take a closer look at the big screen. I truly can't believe that I didn't think of this brilliant idea sooner than I did. I spotted Beta, who was once my close friend and colleague, all wrapped up in one person. He knew very well that I was locked up. He never came to visit me during my time in prison, and didn't even bother to write to me at Christmas. He completely abandoned me when I was at my lowest and had no one. And now, whenever I go out again and finally have some money to spare, he unexpectedly shows up. I wasn't exactly eager to meet him and didn't want to put on a show in front of people, so I decided to remain silent for now. I can always privately scold Beta later when we are alone. But then Beta unexpectedly said something that truly took my breath away. He wanted to visit me in prison right after my sentencing, but he had a serious accident on the way. He was hit by a fire truck. He spent almost 3 years in a coma, and when he woke up, he had completely lost his memory. He spent several months in a rehabilitation facility. He was doing quite poorly. Just 2 months ago, his long-lost memory suddenly returned to him. He was searching for me in the prison facility, from which I was released early due to good behavior on parole. He wasn't aware of my current residence, so he managed to track me down through information on the television. Mrs. Esther gently wiped away tears of deep emotion from her eyes and asked me if I wanted her to move the wall that separated us. I explained that it wasn't truly necessary, since I could easily walk around the obstacle, but the host kindly reminded me that, according to the show's strict rules, the wall needed to be moved. Otherwise, I wouldn't have the chance to see Beta at all. The wall began to move at a snail's pace until it finally rolled away. We cautiously stepped forward to meet Beta when suddenly, without warning, he collapsed to the ground and began convulsing strangely. At first I thought he was joking, but then I realized he was having some kind of seizure. Mrs. Esther, a highly trained nurse by profession, quickly assessed that Beta was experiencing an epileptic seizure and immediately began to provide him with necessary care and support. Beta was conscious when the ambulance arrived. He reassured us that it was nothing. It's a consequence of his injury. He mentioned that it sometimes occurs, particularly when he feels upset or frustrated. After we finished filming, Beta and I decided to go to a cozy cafe and talked for a long time. My newly found friend confided in me that he has been struggling with various challenges since his recent release from the hospital. Due to his epilepsy condition, he struggles to find a stable job, and the disability pension he was granted barely covers his rent expenses. To find something to eat, he has no choice but to dig through dumpsters for discarded food. I was horrified at the unsettling thought of what Beta might be eating now, but he quickly clarified that he doesn't rummage through food scraps from the trash. Instead, he focuses on sellable items like metal scrap, old paper, and various other valuable things he can find. I truly felt a deep sense of compassion for Beta, so I kindly offered him a place to move in with me. Beta thanked me with tears of gratitude, expressing that I was a true friend, and in his overwhelming joy, he experienced 2 epileptic seizures in a row. Having a true friend means so much more to me than having a million. watching the news.